Good.
Great. Thanks for coming, guys. Please help yourself to chocolates. But I need to start with a bit of an admission. Should be some alarm bells going now. I'm not a trained psychologist. Are there any qualified psychologists students here? Oh, we have!
No.
I didn't tell Andy this at the interview, but I'm not a trained psychologist. No, it's not on my CV. So really what I'm covering today isn't, I think, I'm not talking about all the stuff psychology covers from dreams to development and learning and all that. I'm really talking about an area that's known as behavioural economics, which is basically saying customers, we're looking at how customers make decisions here, so I think it's relevant to work, not just home, if you like. Traditional economists say that customers are rational, they have all the information they need, they read the contents on certain supermarkets, and then they go for the cheapest option. But actually in practice, we know that isn't always the case. And the area that's sort of developed has been called behavioural economics, because it's challenged traditional economics to say people's behaviour doesn't actually reflect that. The daddy of this area of behavioural economics is a guy called Daniel Kahneman. And he actually won the Nobel Prize for Economics in 2002. He's the only ever non-economist to win it. He's actually a psychologist. And he wrote a book with a colleague called Thinking Fast and Slow. And the kind of summary of that is we think less than we think we think. Do you get that? So we shouldn't ask people to overthink stuff. So if I had surveyed, if I asked people to try and explain their thinking, they'll give me really rational answers, but actually that's not how we tend to behave that much. And this book has become like the seminal book, so there's huge amounts that have spun off from that. And his Thinking Fast and Slow kind of split down into two systems, if you like. So thinking fast, he called system one. That is unconscious, quick thinking. Laura catching the ball, driving to work today. 2 plus 2, it's done really fast, really quickly, you haven't got to stop and think. But if I say, what's 17 times 23, you might get there in the end, but that's horrible, and that's system 2. That's having to think. You use a lot of brain power, a lot of work to get to the answer. So it's kind of obvious, but obviously some stuff's harder to think about than other stuff. That's kind of common sense. But what's really, the really sort of big breakthrough in psychology recently is that almost all of our world, our brain, is still in the system 1. It's like the reptilian brain, if you like. So it's the easy, thinking fast, it's the 2 plus 2 stuff. So almost all of our processing power is based on system 1, and almost none of it is on system 2. So we spend most of our lives doing the 2 plus 2, and only a tiny bit really doing the 17 times 23 or whatever it was. So if you like, we're not thinking machines that feel. We're feeling, we go on gut feeling and quick kind of instinct, if you like. Here's a quarterback for an American football match who plays on his advantage. So most of the time we're like the yellow team, something feels wrong here. Why is he walking? Because oh, that's weird. And by the time thinking kicks in, that the system 2 stuff, and he hasn't broken any rules, get him, by then it's too late and he scored his touchdown. And it's a bit like that when we live our lives and do our shopping, and so when we like the yellow team, we're kind of going on gut feeling and emotion, and much less the hard thinking. One way of thinking about kind of how people think and their decisions is to split it into 3 areas. Environmental, social, and personal. And to be honest, I think a lot of this stuff I'm talking about you know already and you probably use anyway, but hopefully I'll give you some sort of categories and some kind of terms to add to that. Because we're more emotional and less rational, if you like, we can be very easily influenced. We can one word is, can nudge customers to make decisions in different ways. So let's start off with the environment. The environment in which we present a choice, and this absolutely applies to work here, can massively affect what choice people go for. And part of that, has anyone read Nudge? It's a book in this area to do with this. So they did an experiment where they played French music in the wine aisle of a supermarket for a week. Following week, they played German music. It's not quite as massive French music, probably, but the amazing thing was, when they played the French music, the French wine outsold the German 5-1. Following week, when they played the German music, the German outsold the French. Maybe French wine's a bit better, but it won 2-1 that following week. So this is called priming. Depending on the environment and the music, people will make very different decisions, depending on, you know, the environment, how we prime them. That's the sort of the posh term. Feel free to ask questions. Any chocolates as we go, by the way.
Would you have to know what the numbers were before they played the music?
I don't. I'm guessing it will be somewhere in the middle. I think French would be German, but less than 5-1. I'm sure that was in the data, yeah.
I'm right in saying they do, some of the shops in London that do it with smells.
Yeah.
Sort of documentary on that. That was crazy. I don't know how
all the senses can. Yeah, you know how Tesco's will try and get a kind of fresh bakery smell drifting through to make you feel, oh, it's really fresh and homemade sort of stuff.
Was Nudge the one as well where they did a school cafeteria and moved the healthy choices from one position to the other? Yeah, they put the salad bar at the front. Yeah, make a massive difference. And yeah, it makes a ridiculous amount of difference, whatever you come to first. The healthy choices were at the end, so everybody was loading up on chips and not getting to the healthy choices, but they swapped it around.
And some people say it's like Big Brother sort of playing with you, but they've got to choose at some point. They might as well meet the salad first. And here's an interesting data set for the geeks like me who like data sets. So this is the percent of people who said they're willing to donate their organs, drivers. And it's quite weird because in countries, even neighbouring countries, you get really different results. So let's look at, if you look at, say, Belgium versus the Netherlands, you know, neighbouring countries, in Belgium pretty much everybody says that they're willing to donate their organs, whereas in the Netherlands it's 28%. And when you look at, say, Germany, and us on this side, we're under 20, but it's almost 100% on them. And that they, psychologists or sociologists are looking at this data and trying to understand why, you know, people more, is it a Catholic thing, or are they more generous and more kind of, you know, philanthropic, caring about their fellow man on this side? Does anyone know what it was?
Is it mandatory?
Ish, yeah. It's
opt-in.
Exactly. So basically, the people on the right are automatically enrolled. You know, you're automatically opted in. You have to choose to opt out. And on the left, it's the other way around. And apparently, in the Netherlands, they're opted out. But they did a direct mail campaign to every single household in the Netherlands, and that got them up to 28%. But if they'd automatically opted in, they'd get them up to, you know, 100% or so. And it's kind of does your head in, because you think you get up each morning and you make your own decisions, but actually, depending on how the world is laid out, you end up with massively different decisions you take up. And I guess auto-enrolment in pensions is an example as well. You know, I think that has meant far more people go into pension schemes as a result.
Did anybody explain why Sweden were only 86 or anything?
No, I never saw the answer to that, but yeah, that is odd, isn't it?
Can't trust the Swede, can you?
Social Democrats, Swedish Democrats. So that one's called power of defaults. That's the sort of posh term that psychologists call it. Some of you may have seen this one. So the Economist wanted, they had two pricing options. You could get online access for $59, or you could get online and your paper copy every week through the post for $125. And basically, only a third of people went for the more expensive one, the online and paper. And obviously, they wanted more people to go for the more expensive option. They thought, you know, how can we do this? So they did something a bit stupid, really. They added in a fake one in the middle. So you can get online and web for 125, or you can get online and print for 125, or you can get only print for 125. So you think, well, why would anybody go for that? Well, nobody does go for it. But what happens is, because you framed the choice differently, this was previously 32, and now it goes right up to 84, because, you know, relatively, and you can kind of imagine it saying, we've got a really good deal here, you know, for the same price as this, I can get that as well. So again, depending on how you frame the choice, you end up getting massively different take-up. And this is one from my last company. I worked on one of the brands there, Berghaus, outdoor jackets. And their most expensive jacket in the previous year was the Antileo for £300, and they didn't sell hardly any. So we, based on that Economist thing, we sort of said, well, maybe if you launch one at £400 or higher, that will help sell the cheaper one. So they launched the Albertine at 375 and this one at 350. And it was like magic, really. With no marketing support, the Antileo, the previous one, which had actually gone up slightly from 300 to 330, sold out amazingly quickly and far exceeded our expectations. So, you know, and people didn't believe it, but they thought we were sort of joking. And that one, you could say it's framing or it's anchoring. So if you anchor people against £400 or 375 or whatever, then these jackets were, you know, similar spec in terms of breathability and Gore-Tex and lightweight or what have you. So very similar spec jackets. But because customers are being anchored to a higher price point, this one seems relatively good value. And sure enough, they didn't sell many of these online. So here's an experiment. You've got two different displays of jam. On one you've got 6 jars, and on another you've got 24 jars. Which do you think sold the most?
6.
You know. So the 6th one actually sold 10 times more jam than the 24 one. Because basically, if people are given too much choice, some choice is good, but too much choice, people kind of freeze and it's just too, you know, how do I shop this? It's just really confusing. And I'm sure we can all kind of relate to that to some extent. There's a restaurant chain opening up in London, I think, called Burger and Lobster, where you've basically got a choice, you either have burger or lobster, and they've done really well. It's the most simple kind of menu choice you could have. So that was the environment. The second area is about other people. You know, we're kind of herd animals. This is a book by a guy called Mark Earls who wrote called Herd. Basically, it says a lot more of our lives is guided by how other people behave than we ever are aware of. Obviously, in fashion, this is a big thing. You know, you can see a fashion trend going through a community. The same with cars as well, I'm sure. Here's a busker asking for a donation, and he's also offering a free postcard. So you feel pretty mean to listen to his music, take his postcard and not give him something. And if a guy prepares a presentation and gives you free chocolate, I mean, what? How could you not think good of this guy? I mean, I can't imagine the situation. Surely, if you were human, you'd have some warm feelings for this poor guy. So it's a reciprocation thing, and even with a small little thing like a postcard or a bit of chocolate, people tend to want to be nice back. This isn't a little experiment obviously I'm doing. I'll see how many likes they get on workplace after. That's the test. They've done experiments with waiters and waitresses in restaurants. When they give a mint at the end, they get, I think, 3% more tips. If they go back and give an extra mint, so you've been a lovely customer, and give another mint, they get, I think, 13% more tips on average. If they go down kind of at shoulder level and maybe touch the customer, not too. Just on the shoulder. Then you get really hot tips. Delete that from the video. But just by giving a little extra, like an extra free mint or something, can make a massive difference in terms of the tips that people give. And obviously Amazon and people online are very good at playing on the social element, you know, so you can search for popular brands. What else is popular? What other customers are looking at right now? This is the best seller. You know, if you're looking at 2 restaurants and one's very busy and one's completely empty, you tend to go for the busy one. That, you know, we're all guided by other people. So I think this is described often as social norms. So that's social, and the last area, personal, and there's a book, one of the books kind of quotes a lot in this area, it's by a guy called Dan Ariely, called Predictably Irrational. Did you know that judges, of all people, you know, they're the most highly qualified and educated people, and yet there's evidence that the sentences they give before lunch when they're hungry are a lot worse than just after lunch. Which makes you question it. So depending on their state, however rational they think they are in their minds, actually they're being affected by how they're feeling. So Michael Schumacher, who had that terrible skiing accident, he was wearing a helmet when he had the accident, but apparently in the month after the accident, sales of ski helmets went up sort of 300% or whatever, just because it was constantly in the news, constantly being talked about. I read as well about the whole thing with Madeleine McCann being abducted. That became parents' kind of big worry about child abduction, even though in the list of risks it was still, you know, well down below lots and lots of other stuff. because it was just constantly in the media and constantly being thought about. So this is one they call mental availability, whatever's the most sort of top of mind, mental availability. This is the sort of psychological nudge. So the more, as a brand, obviously, what we're doing with Vanarama and Motorama is constantly trying to be top of mind of people's, you know, so playing on that sort of fight for attention. Anyone know what brand that is? It reminds you of a book brand?
Penguins.
Penguins.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're the alcohol.
Oh, Starbucks.
Yeah. So even without seeing the brand name, based on, you know, in terms of quick processing, emotion rather than sort of thinking, we quickly can recognise these companies. They call it representativeness, so it's not just a name. Whatever's represented in terms of the logos and the colours and the feel of the brands, the shapes of the bottles, things like that, that all becomes part of the assets in the way that customers can quickly identify them and make quick decisions around them. So obviously it's important hence to be consistent with our corporate ID and our colouring and all that. But that's definitely a key kind of nudge area, if you like. And an example from Ryanair, there's another sort of personal nudge, if you like. So people get really excited, they go to Dublin for 14 quid, 15 quid, how exciting. And they really want that, and then by the time they start, they're then committed to go into the longer, phases of booking and probably extra costs further down the line. So this kind of plays on too. There's the power of now. We're hardwired to want to do stuff now, especially I want that now. I suppose it's with diets and stuff as well as an obvious example. But we're hardwired to do that. So Ryanair are getting us really excited. I want that, and once we're committed to that, we're then more likely to go through the process. And the other area is sort of breaking the choice down into neat little chunks. So telling your kids to eat more fruit and veg might not be as good as the government saying you've got to eat 5 portions a day and you've got to eat those 2 carrots and you can have your pudding. By chunking stuff up, that makes it easier for us psychologically to process and more likely to actually follow it through. You could be wasting £194 a year on the wrong phone tariff. And we play nicely on this one as well in our ad. We want you to stop paying eye-watering deposits. We feel loss more keenly than we enjoy gain. So if we said you're going to get an extra 2% salary this month, we go great. If we said you're going to lose 2% this month, people would be absolutely up in arms. That would feel a lot, that would hurt a lot more. So there's a general psychological bias towards feeling loss more keenly, more than enjoying the gains, if you like. So they were the overall areas. Just to sort of summarise, so we've looked at kind of environmental nudges, things like that, and obviously on our website, by having the Fiat 500 hatchback in terms of anchoring us at a certain price point, I think that's quite a nice, we can kind of perhaps look to play around with that. Social nudges, we've got loads of those, so things like, obviously the trust pilot becomes particularly important. There's a reciprocation thing, we're going to give you an extra 1,000 miles free, isn't that the equivalent of giving you free chocolate, I think? And then all the personal nudges as well. I think the quick identifying the branding and the best price guarantee as well, very nice nudges that we use. I just wanted to finish with one more fun video, which is I think the best example I've ever seen of a company saying it's not really about the product, it's about the psychology of the customers. I don't know if you've seen this before. But Shreddies? Square cereal. Apparently they had their sales were flagging and they wanted to, they briefed the ad agency, Ogilvy's I think it was, to grow sales basically. We're not going to be able to change the product, it's the same product, we can't change the formula, but you've got to grow sales. So Ogilvy said, right, okay, we'll get customers to look at it in a different way, and they came up with this video, with this ad, which I think aired I know it definitely aired in Canada and New Zealand. It may have gone out in the UK as well.
supposed to be square.
Have any of these diamond shapes gone out?
New Diamond Shreddy cereal. Same 100% whole grain wheat in a delicious diamond shape.
And I actually saw videos of market research where they had consumers in focus groups and they were presented a plate of shredders, normal square, and then exactly the same shredders but twisted 45 degrees of it. And they were going, yeah, these taste fresher, they taste much better, you know, they really like but the story goes that there was a massive backlash from the people who've been brought up on square shredders, saying, what are you doing playing with our shredders, launching diamond shredders? And they was, you know, they were threatening to boycott the brand. So they ended up having to bring out a combo pack. And they said, we guarantee in every pack you have 50% square and 50% diamond shaped shredders. So it's a nice way of thinking, you know, twisting the psychology, if you like, rather than twisting the actual product. So thanks very much, guys. If you're into this, as you know, as geeky as I am, there's some very other books. I'll send this presentation out. We'll put it on the net. And also, if you'd rather watch a YouTube video, this guy's very good. Paul, of course, like everybody, he knows Rory very well. But he's a fantastic speaker in this area of behavioural economics as well. So, thank you. Have you seen a lot of that before? Have you seen some of those?
When we went to
Yeah, we saw that video.
You probably made the presentation.
I think some of those.
Thanks, Ollie. Thank you, Ollie.
Need some more chocolate, please. Thanks, guys.